and in our armed forces, where national and local identities are celebrated, but where every soldier, sailor, airman and marine shares a common loyalty. In our diplomats drawn from every corner of the UK, representing our shared liberal values of democracy and the rule of law internationally. You see it in the good that UK aid does, helping the poorest people around the world, much of it directed from the DFID HQ in East Kilbride. In our security services, amongst the world's best, working every day to keep everyone in the UK safe. All of these public servants come together from different backgrounds to serve a common purpose, achieving more as one Team UK than they ever could separately. You see that social union in our shared institutions, the glue that holds our union together. The BBC, providing bespoke services in every part of the UK, broadcasting in the different languages of the UK nations, but also sustaining a common UK-wide conversation. The NHS, whose core principles of high-quality healthcare, free at the point of use, according to clinical need, are the definition of our solidarity as a union of people. These are the institutional examples of the diversity and harmony of our union. But the most tangible demonstrations of that union of people are the personal stories being written every day within families and friendships across the country. At every level, there is an alchemy inherent in our union, the achievement of something greater because our four nations work together. It can sometimes be hard to articulate the core tenets that underwrite that success, to transcend specific examples and get to the coherence of the whole. Today, I want to identify three core strengths which for me define our union and which will be its surest safeguards in the years ahead. Its reliance on the support of its people, its respect for different identities, and the pooling and sharing of risks and rewards. First, our union rests on and is defined by the support of its people. It is not held together by a rigid constitution or by trying to stifle criticisms of it. It will endure as long as people want it to, for as long as it enjoys the popular support of the people of Scotland and Wales, England and Northern Ireland. We showed that in 2014. The UK and Scottish governments came together to agree the terms of a referendum on independence. Both sides committed to respect the result. The then First Minister and his then Deputy both asserted that it was a once-in-a-generation or once-in-a-lifetime event. And if a majority had supported independence, the UK government would have accepted that result, no question. But the people of Scotland did not vote for independence. A clear and decisive majority of 10 percentage points gave the Union their backing, and their decision should be respected. So when Nicola Sturgeon requested of the UK government in 2017 the power to legislate for a second independence referendum, just 3 years after that historic vote, I had no hesitation in firmly saying no. In the future, it will be for others to decide, based on the prevailing circumstances, how to respond to separatism. But the principle is clear. The union can and will only prosper if it enjoys the support of its people. The second core strength is the respect we give within our union for different identities. Being together in a union does not mean we lose our local and national identities. We can support a football team representing one of the UK nations and cheer on Team GB at the Olympics and feel there's nothing incoherent about it. Our nationalities, along with our religions, our racial heritages, our sexualities, and many other factors are part of the tapestry of each individual. You can be Welsh and Muslim and British. You can be Glaswegian and gay and British. You might feel more English than British, or vice versa. You do not have to choose. You can be both or either or neither. The union has never been about uniformity. Scotland, as a proud and historic nation, retained its separate legal, religious and educational systems within the union. The Belfast Agreement guarantees the birthright of all the people of Northern Ireland to identify themselves and be accepted as Irish or British or both as they may so choose. The Welsh language enjoys an equal legal status with English. Fel y dylai fod, as it should be. Diversity is part of the deal. That respect for multiple identities also includes respect for those who do not identify as British. It is legitimate in a democracy for anyone to seek to change the constitutional settlement through legal means. Ours is a union that seeks to work for everyone, where everyone committed to democracy and the rule of law can feel at home and part of the whole. But we must also nurture the things that bring us together and celebrate the shared bonds and interests that unite us. This accommodation of multiple layered identities within a common system of values is one of the UK's greatest assets. It is a hallmark of what it is to be British, and it is a defining strength of our union. The third core strength is about how we interact as a union of people, that we face challenges together and freely pool the resources at our disposal in order to overcome them. We see that most clearly and movingly in the darkest times. This year, I had the honour to represent the United Kingdom at the D-Day commemorations. What better example of success achieved by pooling our national resources to overcome a shared risk could you find? It was a success born of shared sacrifice, which ensured our very survival and the survival of freedom and democracy for the whole world. And it was only possible because we were a united kingdom of 4 nations, but one people. But it is not just in times of war that we see that principle in action. The broad shoulders of the world's 5th largest economy allowed the whole of the UK to weather the storm of the global financial crisis a decade ago. Banks headquartered in Edinburgh and London were rescued by the Treasury, action that was only possible because of the size and strength of the whole UK economy. The UK government has been able to take unprecedented action to support the oil and gas sector following the decline in the international oil price, with public spending here in Scotland protected even as North Sea tax receipts dwindled. The UK and Welsh governments worked in partnership to support the steel sector, ensuring the sustainability of steel production in South Wales and keeping the iconic blast furnaces at Port Talbot open. And it's not just about the benefits that the union gives to its parts, but about what those parts contribute to the whole. The great Scottish universities, some of the best in the world, which help make the UK an education powerhouse. The engineering innovation in Cardiff, where the world's first compound semiconductor cluster is pioneering a crucial technology of the future. Northern Ireland's emerging status as the world's biggest and most beautiful TV studio, renowned for the highest quality programming from Line of Duty to Game of Thrones. These are some of the brightest jewels in the United Kingdom's crown. Every business, every community, every family in each nation of the UK is part of that bigger whole and makes their contribution to it. Time and again, the benefits of sharing challenges and opportunities together and pooling our resources to meet them are clear. It is baked into how our union is governed. The Barnett formula delivers spending per head significantly higher in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales than the UK average to reflect particular needs. At its heart is the principle of solidarity, that we are one people, that we have a common stake in each other's success, that the happiness of someone in Belfast is the care and concern of someone in Bolton or Brecon or Bridge of Allen. These core strengths provide an emotional and intellectual framework through which to understand the benefits of our union, the benefits it brings to all its people. They are noble principles that define us and which we can take pride in. And as we look to the future and the questions it will ask of us, we can take confidence that our union is built on rock-solid foundations. Safeguarding our union for the long term will take work. Right now, it means doing 2 things urgently. First, delivering a Brexit that works for the whole United Kingdom, for its individual parts and for the whole. And second, being much more creative and energetic in strengthening the ties that bind us and reinforcing the glue that holds our union together. On Brexit, the challenge is serious. Majorities of voters in England and Wales voted to leave, while majorities in Scotland and Northern Ireland voted to remain. That fact places an important responsibility on a unionist government committed to delivering on the referendum result. Ensuring that we leave the EU in a way that protects the interests of all parts of the UK has been one of my central priorities over the last 3 years, and I regret that I will soon be stepping down with that ambition as yet unfulfilled. Leaving with a good deal, one that works for the whole UK, is the very best possible outcome and the right one to be working towards. It means we can get on and build a good new relationship with our European friends and partners. And it is far better than leaving without a deal, which would have undoubted consequences for our economy and for the Union. Clearly, a major barrier to my success in getting a deal agreed was the challenge posed by the UK's land border with another EU member state. A border which weaves its way through farms and villages, bisects hundreds of roads and lanes, and which is crossed and recrossed by thousands of people every day. And a border which is bound up with the complexities of an often troubled past. At the heart of the Belfast Agreement, which enabled the people of Northern Ireland to move beyond that past into a shared future, was a compromise. That people who identify as Irish can live in Northern Ireland, but to all intents and purposes operate across the whole of Ireland in their day-to-day lives and in their business activities without any semblance of a border. That compromise was enabled by having a seamless border. The backstop insurance policy we agreed with the EU, which would have been activated only if we were unable to agree our new relationship within the implementation period, respected that compromise. And the future relationship will need to respect it. It will be for my successor to resolve that issue, and I will not today seek to provide any advice on the matter. I will simply say this. There can and must be no false choice between honouring the solemn commitments of the Belfast Agreement and delivering on the decision of the British people in the EU referendum. We must do both. Brexit certainly poses a challenge for the Union, but it is one which can be met by working with the grain of the United Kingdom's core strengths, and in forcing us politicians to pay more attention to the dynamics of our Union. It is a challenge we can and should use as the opportunity to strengthen that Union for the long term. The need to do so long predates Brexit. One of the lessons of the independence referendum in 2014 was that those of us who believe in our United Kingdom must need to do much more to make and demonstrate the emotional case for it and to strengthen the ties that bind it together. As we do so, we can take confidence in our union's adaptability. And there's no better example of that adaptability than devolution. 20 years since the creation of the Scottish Parliament, the National Assembly for Wales and the Northern Ireland Assembly, it is clear that devolution is a source of strength for the UK, not a sign of its weakness. It is the form of government best suited to our geography, our history and our future. Stormont, Holyrood and Cardiff Bay are democratic expressions of the multiple identities that define the Union. And devolved legislators working alongside a United Kingdom Parliament elected by every citizen of the Union, containing representatives of every community in the Union, means the best of both worlds. The benefit of more responsive and representative government for Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, without sacrificing the strength and security that pooling and sharing risks and rewards provides. Northern Ireland had a devolved parliament from its inception up until the beginning of the Troubles, after which it always remained UK government policy to see devolved government there restored. And when devolved government in Northern Ireland was finally restored, it was after an historic agreement to end a long and painful period of conflict. The devolution settlement brought about by the Belfast Agreement was an example for the world in uniting people behind a shared future. And as the parties in Northern Ireland continue in talks to restore that devolution, the hope and history surrounding it should be a powerful reminder of the imperative of not letting that progress slip away. In Great Britain, successive governments of both parties pursued policies of administrative devolution, the creation of separate Whitehall departments for Scotland and Wales, led by cabinet ministers, but resisted calls for legislative devolution. There were objections to it from across the political spectrum. Many on the left feared it would weaken the ability of a socialist government to effect economic and social change. And despite first making a Scottish Assembly our policy as early as 1968, many Conservatives worried that it might loosen the bonds that tie us together. Both left and right are now fully united behind devolution. A Labour government created the devolved institutions in Scotland and Wales, and Conservatives have embraced them. Successive Conservative and Conservative-led governments since 2010 have strengthened the devolution settlements. Holyrood has new powers over tax, welfare and more. Cardiff Bay has tax powers and lawmaking powers. In Northern Ireland, we've legislated to enable Stormont to take on powers over corporation tax. Today, the only threat to devolution comes from those parties who want to end it by breaking up the United Kingdom. For those of us who believe in the Union, devolution is the accepted and permanent constitutional expression of the unique multinational character of our Union. It was ironic that the UK government's sincere efforts to ensure that Brexit had no unintended consequences for the UK's internal market was dismissed as a power grab by the SNP. A UK government which had enthusiastically launched and implemented the Smith and Silk Commissions, transferring sweeping powers over tax and welfare, stood accused